you know, we haven't seen this guy in a while, and I felt like we were missing out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Skid Mark Levin, and Skid Mark over here is really concerned with maybe it's his first name, but as a singular Mark, he's worried about Marx plural Marxists, and he's easily upset. Most of the time, I can't tell why. He's just angry. Um, I have my own theories. Mainly, I think it hurts physically to be this stupid. That's my guess. That's why, he's like grumpy all the time, you know. I give people with chronic pain a lot of room because man, that sucks. Everybody knows I've fucked up my shoulder and for like 3 months straight, there were times when I could barely stand doing the show. I was doing the show and I'd be nauseous while I was doing it because it hurt so bad, but I got through it and it was entertaining, but it really did hurt. And so I was like, Jesus, the people who have this all the time, my heart goes out to them and I understand it. And so I get what that's like or whatever. I have less sympathy for somebody like him where it's self-induced, it's criminally painful stupidity, but he brought it on himself. So what are you gonna do? Yeah, you got to fill up my jar. I don't have the jar out. Shit, there's a bunch of stuff I haven't put in on this thing. Hey, by the way, did you notice this real quick? I don't know if anybody saw this. Um, like, I added this earlier, and it's a little stupid. I understand. Just a little. I made the screen move, and I was just very like, Hal, what do you do while you're listening to this shit? I make little signs that say all your base are belong to us. Um, and put it on make a little video, and then I shrink the video down and I put it in a tiny little window on my silly little show space frame that I made with AI and green screening because I'm a silly person. It's funny, you get it? Excellent. It's totally stupid. Um, that's my idiot radar. It's detecting something right above it. So this is Mark Levin, Skid Mark Levin, as we call it, and this is titled "I'm Sick and Tired of These Attacks." He's very upset. Let's hear it. He's mad and he's not going to take it anymore. It's 17 minutes long. We may not do the whole thing, but I just want to know what he's upset about. Besides everything.
I love doing these shows on
Hold
Liberty
on.
and Levin Saturday.
Wait.
Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday.
Oh, good. So he can swear, I guess. It's not like the weekly show. And by the way, Life, Liberty, and Levin, as far as I know, is only on Saturdays. Uh-huh.
One of the reasons I love doing these shows on Fox is
the money. Because when you're on Newsmax, it feels sad.
Gives me an opportunity not only to introduce you to some stellar individuals, but to talk about history and philosophy and economics and all these things that are generally not discussed on platforms.
Yeah, it gives him a rare opportunity to be wrong about all those things in one show.
Platforms like this. American history. Maybe I ought to do a show on American history every week.
Yeah, you should do that. Do that. Yeah, do it every once in a while. Not all the time. Not now. Not today. Just sometimes, but not a lot of it. Just some of it.
Week. But we're going to use tonight's show. It's going to be very exciting, I think.
Well, you usually think the show is going to be exciting, and it isn't. So I'm not going to get my hopes up. But you seem full of bluster and excitement. You don't seem like your energy is lagging and you're bored at your own show at this point. Actually, you do. I take it back. You kind of do.
Very informative to discuss some American history. Why? Because there are reprobates.
I feel seen.
Historical illiterates on other channels who want you to believe certain things that are not true.
You mean, look, I wouldn't talk shit about Newsmax. That's your other gig.
Why? Well, mostly because they're not very bright.
I see. Well, then I guess you don't have to worry about it because they're not going to, stupid people can't convince smart people to be stupid. So I guess you're fine.
And so, as I said the other day, part of my job here is to...
Yeah, you don't have to tell it again. I obviously saw it. We all watched it. Didn't you watch it? You watched it, right? The thing he said with the other day about the thing? Because we always watch, don't we?
To unravel what they do.
Mhm.
But more importantly, in the next 15 minutes, you're going to learn more about American history than you probably have ever learned, certainly more than you've ever learned on TV or radio.
That's a big promise. I read Don't Know Much About History, that whole book, and I have some. Can I show you something real quick? Because my lovely folks were nice enough to buy me a copy. Here it is. So I have quit it. I have an original dog-eared version of this book, and Universal. That's how old the title is, because it starts with a vowel, but has a consonant like pronunciation. So you could say a universal, but An Universal History of the United States of America, which is a fucking great book by C.B. Taylor. And the subtitle is Embracing the Whole Period from the Earliest Discoveries Down to the Present Time in 3 parts. And I have like this book. They didn't even bother to fucking retype it. It's a photostat copy of the goddamn thing. They literally just took the best copy of the book they could find, and they look at this shit. Look at that. Some of the pages aren't even readable. So I've read this too, and it's got a wonderful story about George Washington weeping over the body of a dead soldier. And so and I learned a lot about sort of the humanity of everybody in that part of it, and some of the stuff is I guess it's still with me. So you know what? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe he's right. Maybe in the next 3 minutes, he's going to actually shock me with a piece of information that I don't know, that you don't know, that shit. He may tell us something even he doesn't know. P.S. Ken Burns is an asshole. Somebody who said Ken Burns.
And mostly more than you ever learned in high school or college.
So you're not expecting anybody with a PhD in history to actually watch your show, is what you're saying. You're not, or anyone who took history and actually graduated anything.
We're going to start by using as a foil a reprobate who is a Politico reporter in Washington, D.C., who appeared on MSNBC, where we all go to get facts and information, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to deal with this because this is a frontal assault on Christianity. We've had a frontal assault on Judaism and Jews for the last many months in this country.
For the last many months.
It's been given voice by MSNBC and CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the usual platforms.
No, the usual platforms have not been platforming anti-Semitism or like Jewish hatred or any of that.
But now they're pushing this idea of Christian nationalism.
Yeah, Christian nationalism is not an integral part of our country's founding. Our founding fathers were deists largely. But you know what? Fuck it. Why? Sorry. I know I started inputting too early. Let's let him get to his stupid fucking point. By the way, Christian nationalism is, especially in the modern day, has nothing to do with the values of Christianity, say the Ten Commandments and other things that were put into play when they started this fucking country. Christian nationalism is nobody but Christians is allowed in, which is against what the founding fathers wrote. As a matter of fact, like I said, the First Amendment is literally a fuck you to literally / figuratively, a fuck you to the first 2 commandments.
Which they're trying to link up with the Klan and things of that sort.
Yes, the Klan is, they refer to themselves as a Christian organization. That's why.
The media in this country, they abuse their authority, they lie, and they try and preach the radical left agenda. How about we do a little bit of history tonight?
Let's do it. Let's get right into it, because obviously you're burning daylight.
Straighten things out. So this is from last week, a Politico reporter on MSNBC, a terrible, poisonous combination. Go.
There's many different groups orbiting Trump, but the thing that unites them as Christian nationalists, not Christians, by the way, because Christian nationalists is very different, is that they believe that our rights as Americans, as all human beings, don't come from any earthly authority. They don't come from Congress. They don't come from the Supreme Court. They come from God. The problem with that is that they are determining men, it is men, are determining what God is telling them. And in the past...
Yes, this would be Mike Johnson thinking he's fucking Moses and them believing that, you know, that God... The worst part is the ones that think God is actually speaking to them and through them, which is fucked up. But even like literalists, like readers of the Old Testament, are trying to incorporate that in when, you know, a lot of times it's interesting. Old Testament versus New Testament. Christianity refers to, and you know, when I was when I was growing up as a Christian as a kid, I got a copy of the New Testament by itself. There was a big movement about this in the 70s and early 80s to just have the New Testament, because the New Testament cast out all the fucking biblical violence that was in the Old Testament. It was referred to in many ways as a new covenant. A new, you know, the old covenant was the deal that you had with God about how you behaved and all that stuff, and the new one was love thy neighbor and turn the other cheek and all that stuff. And that was a new covenant. That was a new way of looking at the world that got rid of, you know, eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It was not, you know, these mitigatory attempts at like tribal law that were in the first one. It just blew past those and said, we're now moving to an enlightened age where we don't need to even live like, you don't even have to think like this. Love thy enemy. You know, and love your neighbor as yourself. Don't do anything to them that you wouldn't want to have done to you. And that includes limiting your rights as a human being. Do as you will, be an example, right? Anyways, so she's right.
That so-called natural law is, you know, it's a pillar of Catholicism. Catholicism, for instance, it's been used for good in social justice campaigns. Right. Martin Luther King evoked it in talking about civil rights. But now you have an extremist element of conservative Christians who say that this applies specifically to issues including abortion, gay marriage, and it's going much further than that.
You know, ladies and...
Yes. No lies detected. Philip says, can I get one of those Motang teas? Yes, they're on my Twitch store. They're on the Twitch. If you go to Twitch, there's a little thing, link below it, I think.
Gentlemen, the sanctimony that the left has when they're spewing stupid things is remarkable to me.
Okay, and your angry bullshit, like faux outrage is aggravating too. What's your fucking point?
Now, obviously, she doesn't know a damn thing about American history or...
All right, school us.
America's founding, other than what she's heard from some left-wing tenured professor or her friends. And the founders of this country, the most important philosopher at the time was John Locke. John Locke wrote a number of essays and treatises, including the second treatise on government. This had an enormous impact on the...
Oh, yeah. Lots of things had an impact. It was the coming together of all of those things that actually formed the document we live under. Okay, these motherfuckers also want to take the arguments that they liked in the Federalist Papers that didn't actually make it to the Constitution itself, or were not the way that they were to be interpreted, and they want to rework the Constitution. We're going, you know, in the Federalist Paper, they talk about this, they talk about this, they talk about a lot of things, as they boil down to what would be the primary things that we actually put in the Constitution and the amendments. That was the decision-making process. What they fucking threw against the wall to see what stick doesn't fucking matter. What matters is what actually got in the Constitution and how it was constructed. And what these assholes always want to do is go back and try to correct the parts about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that they don't like, and go back and find in the Federalist Papers some like, aha, get the fuck out of here.
Founders of this country. Other historians have looked very carefully at the pamphlets that were written at the time. Thomas Paine was a pamphleteer, but there were many.
A pamphleteer. Yes, the rise of the pamphleteers, they called it.
And John Locke was cited more than any other pamphleteer.
Great. Was it the only pamphleteer that was cited? No. Did they just decide to go with everything he wrote in his pamphleteering? No.
And why? John Locke talked about the free will, the individual, unalienable rights, natural rights,
inalienable right.
Law. And in some ways, he was borrowing from Aristotle. Aristotle talked about two characters of the law. He talked about natural law, which is a universal law. In other words, murder is wrong, whether man passes a law or not. It's wrong in America. It's wrong in China. The fact that governments don't follow it and individuals don't follow it is a different story. But morality does not come from man. Morality comes from a higher authority. And then there's what he called particular law. What's particular law? Law made by man. So there's universal truths, universal law.
And then there's tax law. Who gives a fuck, you dumbass? What does that have to do with what she's saying?
God-given, particular laws created by man. Some are just, some are unjust, some are democratic, some are authoritarian, whatever it is. This is basic stuff for those
Right, and it has nothing to do with what she's talking about.
of us who've studied it over the decades. And the founders of our country, during the revolution.
This is Ben Franklin reading one of these fucking pamphlets. Jesus Christ, another Locke pamphlet. I had to get through these goddamn things. If I have to read another one of these things, I will never invent anything again. But I do need, you know what? It'd be good if I had a pair of glasses where I could look at you with the top and then look at the paper through the bottom. Wait a minute. I'll be back.
Revolutionary period, when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, what did they rely on? Who did they rely on? They relied on Aristotle. They relied
Well, he's a reliable guy. He was always around, you know.
on a great Roman senator by the name of Cicero. They relied on John Locke. They relied on Montesquieu. They relied
So everybody, only people with big noses. I get it.
on a gentleman by the name of Sidney.
Yep, it was required at the time. These are only the guys with big noses got enough oxygen at the time because of all the, you know, because everything was like a wood burning stove and fires burning all over the time. So you needed a giant proboscis to be able to get enough oxygen into your skull. That's why I'm so smart. It's because my nostrils are so big.
They relied on all these great thinkers, Aquinas,
And a few that were a little confused. This is Saint Frangipane, the patron saint of eating feathers. He hated being interrupted when he was eating feathers. He didn't like chicken, but he would eat all the feathers.
That's who they relied on. Why? Because really, this is about Western Enlightenment. Western Enlightenment.
Right. Which was deist and not Christian. And by the way, also can I point out that the Greek and Roman philosophers that they were relying on were pagans. So, just throwing that out there.
This is about a nation that was founded on Judeo-Christian principles.
No, the natural law part is based on the idea that they're not Judeo or Christian. They are natural laws. They are true forever, no matter what. They're true here or they're true in China, where Buddha was a big character. Apparently, I don't know much about it, but apparently he was a big fancy pants over there. And so, yeah. And by the way, a lot of times these assholes will say Judeo-Christian because they want to pick and choose from the Old Testament and the New Testament. When the New Testament is too peacenik and wussy and soy for them, they go back and go, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and that kind of stuff from the Old Testament. They love that shit, and they could tell like the sex stories and the war stories from the Old Testament. And they don't have to like fucking deal with the hippie Jesus shit.
And yet we're told every day that it's not. We're told every day that this.
No, you're not. You're not told every. She didn't even say that. She's not even saying that. She's saying that like Catholics and the founding fathers did base their ideas on Christian ideals, more so than Judeo-Christian ideals, certainly. Christian ideals directly. But they wrote in there that your religion basically stops at the end of your nose. That's the purpose. That's what made it more Christian than Judeo-Christian, because love thy neighbor as thyself, meaning don't do anything to them that you would have them do unto you, which means also beyond just killing and murder and stealing and all that shit, but also denying them their rights to make their own decisions. You would not like someone else defining your life for you, so don't do it to them. Don't make their moral decisions for them.
Is an unjust country. We're told every day that it's about white privilege. We're told every day something that's a lie. Well, I would remind them that Karl Marx was white too.
Oh yeah, I mean, and he was also a racist. Yeah, the only way he could think of to insult Jews, um, you know, more than just calling them dirty or awful or gross or whatever, was to call them the N-word Jew. That was his. He would attach that to their name. He goes, you know, the only way I can insult them, the Jews, is to add the N-word to them. He was, yeah, lovely dude.
So was their hero Franklin Roosevelt. He was white too.
So
is their hero Joe Biden, who's actually translucent, if you want to know the truth. But for instance, Aristotle
that's a Steve Martin joke that Martin Short tells. Fuck you.
wrote Nicomachean Ethics. In one of his essays on that, he talks about this.
You mean Nicomachean?
John Locke, the second treatise on government. Virtually every single founder read that book.
So fucking what?
Sidney on discourses concerning government, Cicero on the Republic and on the laws. And I could go on and on and on.
Yes, and what? The idea is that of course they incorporated those things into their thought, but they came up with something wholly new, dumb fuck.
It's all there for the understanding. Where she, Politico, MSNBC, and the bobbleheads that are just saying yes, 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 who do they rely on? They're so moronic, they don't even know who they rely on. You know who they rely on? Philosophers like Rousseau and Hegel. And Marx stole from Hegel. All three white.
No, they don't. She's not even talking about this, you dumb fuck. She's not discussing a system of governance. She's saying that beyond our normal system of governance, there are Christians who are Christo-fascists. They believe that we are and should be a Christian nation for Christians only. And Mark Levin, as a Jew, you would be asked to leave. They would go, you have Israel, go back there. We'll protect you because you got to stay alive until Jesus comes back, and then you have to die because that's part of the story. But and nobody in this, that this is a Christian nation based on Christian ideals, and what they mean is Judeo-Christian, because obviously there are lots of rules that Christ wiped away. That was the whole fucking point. But they like to, gather back. They're big fans of fucking Leviticus when Jesus, as the new covenant, was getting rid of that. That was the fucking point.
Men, by the way, just want to remind the left, and that's the modern day Democrat Party.
Gibberish.
That man gives us rights and privileges.
No, man protects rights and privileges. And those are the governing rights, not the natural rights. Of course they do. Does anybody think this motherfucker thinks we don't need cops because our rights come from God and so nobody dare mess with them? Does this asshole literally think we don't need the Air Force and the Army and the Marines and Space Force, for fuck's sake?
And we need the right man. Certain types of men. So, in other words, it's a very dangerous ideology and it's preposterous. Now, I want to talk about the Declaration.
All right, we're 6 minutes into this horseshit, and this was supposed to teach us more about history than we've ever learned in any classroom. That was the promise. You better make some fucking ground or I'm tapping out, asshole.
Declaration of Independence that relies on John Locke and Aristotle.
Jesus Christ. I don't care what it relies on. What was the result? It relied on everything up to its point. Neil Armstrong said, I was only the first man on the moon because of circumstance. Everything that worked together in all the areas of his life brought him to that moment. It wasn't just because he was the right man for the job, but it was the right time. And the technology reached that point. And the government decided we were in a fight against the Russians. So the timing worked out that way. That's why it all came to a head. That moment happened because of a myriad of other things. The same thing is true of the Constitution. People had tried other forms of government in fits and starts, but theocracies and monarchies had always murdered everybody. Or dumbass tribes of either Vikings or barbarians or fucking Germanic tribes would just come through and fucking kill everybody like the opening 10 minutes of Conan. For fuck's sake.
Following those. Follow me carefully. Now we get into a really smart part. If colleges were actually teaching this subject.
Jesus Christ, just spit it out.
They should be teaching something like this. Listen to this.
Okay, here we go.
Reason cannot by itself explain why there's reason. Science can.
He's reading from his own fucking book. And if he's not, there are no quotes around this. Jesus.
Cannot by itself explain why there's science. Man's discovery and application of science are products of reason. Reason and science can explain the existence of matter, but they can't explain why there is matter. They can explain the existence of the universe, but they can't explain why there's a universe. They can explain the existence.
Hey, motherfucker, say why again. Yeah, everybody's seen Steve Martin, A Wild and Crazy Guy. We all have Let's Get Small. That science is pure empiricism and has nothing to say about metaphysics. We understand that, you dumb motherfucker. That science isn't the why, it's the how. Big fucking deal. Jesus Christ. Do you bug your fucking mechanic with stories about, hey man, why do I even drive? Do you want me to fix this fucking thing or not? Shut the fuck up. I'm getting grease in my eyes.
Of nature and the law of physics, but they cannot explain why there is nature in the law of physics. They can.
What's your king point?
Can explain the existence of life, but they cannot explain.
Whoa. Hey, asshole. Never occurred to you that government isn't supposed to come up with the why? That's a human thing. They're supposed to come up with the what and the how. You dumb motherfucker.
Why there is life. They can explain the existence of consciousness, but they cannot explain why there's
Jesus Christ. Why don't you just... They can explain fucking sprinkles, but they can't explain why you need sprinkles. Well, I technically can, actually. Because they're awesome.
Consciousness. Science is a critical aspect of human existence, but it cannot address the spiritual and moral nature of man.
Right, you dumb motherfucker. That's why you leave it out of government. That is a struggle humans have, you fucking dipshit. You know, that, god damn it, and I can say that in full without any fear of reprisal, I might add, because God thinks I'm delicious. But you want the government defining these questions? You stupid son of a bitch.
In this respect, science is a dead end, around which the atheists refuse to reason. Reason itself informs man.
The fuck? What does this have to do with this bitch talking about Christian nationalists, you asshole?
Of his own limitations, and in doing so, directs him to the discovery of a force greater than himself. A supernatural force responsible for the origins of not only human existence, but all existence, and which itself has always existed and will always exist. These are
So it doesn't need any help from you, so shut the fuck up and get on with it. Secondly, do you want a committee in the House of Representatives to answer the definitive questions of whether there is a God and what we should do to show our allegiance to him? Are you out of your fucking dome-ass mind?
my opinions in Liberty and Tyranny.
Fucker quoted his own goddamn book. It's a party foul. Why don't you just shit in a punch bowl while you're at it, you dumb fuck?
But they were also the views of the founders of your country.
That's why they left it out of the Constitution. That's why they don't define religion. That's why they make no laws about it. Because you can't, you dumb son of a bitch.
For most, the
Fuck you! Stop reading your own book, you tit.
supernatural reveals itself in the Creator, God. Man seeks God's guidance through faith and prayer.
Right. Not through science, reason, or governance. We don't need to ask God how we make traffic laws, you dumb motherfucker. What are you talking about?
The agnostic accepts the supernatural, but is not sure of the
Oh, Jesus Christ! What the fuck kind of... No labels!
form of its existence. The deist accepts that God
Oh, God. And the bisexual can't be trusted. Get on with it.
created the universe and man's condition, but left it to man to sort things out through reason.
And that's what the fucking founding fathers were. To reason. There it is.
Man is more than a physical creature. As Edmund Burke,
Fucking Burke.
who was
A fancy pants. Just say it. He was a fucking fancy pants. Look at him. Fancy pants.
at the time a crucially important
Fancy pants.
Irish member of the British Parliament,
Rough spot to be in. So he was drunk, is what you were saying.
who looked at the American Revolution and supported it, who looked at the French Revolution and strongly opposed it.
Uh-huh. Because he didn't speak French, right?
Because he said the American Revolution was about representative government, the French Revolution was about destroying their society.
Yeah. No lies detected. And?
Much like the revolution of the left today.
What the fuck does this have to do with a political lady? What do you think Christian nationalists want to do? They're wiping their ass with the Constitution, you dumbass.
What did he say? There's but one law for all, namely the law which governs all law, the law of our Creator, the law of humanity, justice, equity, the law of nature.
Equity? Equity? Wait a fucking minute. You actually typed the word equity in your book? Equity. The law of humanity, justice, equity. That's curious.
And of nations. This is the natural law that penetrates man's
Look out.
being, in which the founding fathers, my words, adopted as the principle around which civilized American society would be organized.
American society? Really? Is that what it said? American society? Is that how you put it, you dumb fuck?
As the principle around which civilized American society would be
American society? Yeah.
organized.
Right. Equity. Uh-huh. Equity. America is one of the primary, it's one of the legs of the stool, is it? It's funny that you would bring that up. Skid mark?
Your Declaration of Independence, which was the consensus position of the colonists, appeals specifically to the
Who, by the way, had belts on their hats a lot of the time. So, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
laws of nature and nature's God. It provides further, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
Yeah, you'll notice they didn't say Yahweh or the Christian God or the God of Abraham, or they just said their Creator, whoever the fuck that might be.
That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's John Locke.
Right, and did he put in the part about Creator as opposed to a specific God, like the God of the tribe of David or some shit like that, or Jesus Christ? I mean, honestly, you'd think they'd be a little more fucking specific, don't you?
The founders were enlightened men, but not
They were enlightened men? Really? Were they enlightened men?
the pursuit of happiness. That's John Locke.
Uh-huh.
The founders were enlightened men.
Yeah, they were enlightened men. That's enlightened men put together. They were enlightened men.
But not purely of the age of enlightenment. They were
No, they were enlightened men, but only slightly lightened. They were lightened, more lighter than you might think.
highly educated, well-informed men who excelled at reason and subscribed to science, but
also always wore vests even on a hot day.
worshiped neither. They comprehended them, their strengths as well as weaknesses. At least two founders, Thomas Jefferson and
Jesus Christ, you're boring Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin. Both of them look exhausted from listening to your shit. The cruelest thing you have ever done to either of these two gentlemen is put their picture in your book. When you put the picture in, they were young. They had hope in their eyes. And now look at them. After just the osmosis of your bullshit words seeping through the page onto their pictures has sucked the life and spirit out of them. Jesus Christ, They look like they're waiting in line for a movie they've seen too many times and never wanted to see in the first place. You dumb motherfucker. It's 10 minutes in, and we're not going to learn like some magic thing that we didn't learn in school that Locke was one of the primary. All we're learning is that Mark Levin is very upset. I suppose by the idea that oh, hold on one second. I just read that in the shoe. Yes, they did have buckles in their shoes. It's true. So whose birthday was it? Somebody. I just saw a birthday go by. I don't want to miss it. I'll try to find it. Whose birthday was it? There, Bethany. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bethany. Happy birthday to you. I haven't seen you in a while.
Benjamin
Yay.
Franklin are widely believed to have been deists.
Right. Widely believed to be deists. Where'd you get that from? I don't know. Maybe their writings?
They were men of varying denomination, but
Varying denomination. And some without it.
united and emphatic in the belief that the Creator was the origin of their existence and the
Well, hence the title, I think, right? If you think you have a creator or you were created, then obviously that would be the origin. You wouldn't have a creator that's like a mid-level like queen that just farts out humanity, and there's like some, like they doling out other gods. Oh, that sounds like paganism. Wait a minute.
source of their reason. Look, I'm not preaching.
Jesus Christ. No, you're not. You don't have all right. Here's my thing. This is the part that drives me crazy about these assholes. He's coming on here throwing a fit, defending Christian nationalists that have nothing to do with an actual belief system, but have to, and he's totally missing the entire fucking point. Like, I've never seen a swing and a miss this bad. And this guy's an idiot and an asshole. We've seen tons of his stuff. This is one of the worst I've ever seen. He is literally making the case that the Christian nationalists are right and also don't exist, and that she's wrong because she doesn't understand that we're all Christian nationalists because that's how the country was decided, without recognizing that Christian nationalists themselves don't give a, they don't even think that Thomas Jefferson and these guys acted on their own. They were directed by God. They're basically autonomous robots running a program put in them by God. And this would be the whatever. It's overall, this is just, I don't even know that he knows why he's fucking mad, is my point.
Religion here, although I'm a man of faith.
Prove it. Prove it. I don't buy it. I don't see any faith in this guy's experience of the world. You know what? All right. I would consider myself a man of faith. And here's how you know that I am, or at least in my belief system, I am a man of faith. This is how you know. Because I can maintain my good humor and my love of my fellow man in spite of my issues with them. And that I do not believe I know when the end is coming. I would never presume to know. I think that's the height of arrogance. That's absurd. You'd have to be a complete asshole to think you know when any, how things are going to turn out, like you're some sort of fucking prophet or soothsayer, right? Yeah, it's hubris. It's ego. He's a man of ego. And it's also why I can maintain my good humor about my fellow man and keep laughing through all this stuff and keep my joy up. And, we all go through real emotions and we deal with them because we want our life to be meaningful. It's not just we don't laugh off all of life. But specifically, the reason why the hope I find is based in that faith. And anybody who, by the way, you're all people of faith on some level. It's just a matter of degree. And I know people will balk at that, but let me tell you something. Optimism is the default operating system of humanity. And optimism is just another word for faith. What's optimism is a positive belief, a faith that things will work out or that they're going to work out. Correct? Yep. Every meal you eat, you assume you're going to live long enough to digest it. One would presume, unless of course you're on death row, in which case I think you're just eating to spite people. Yeah. Optimism is faith, and optimism is how you do. If you're not completely paralyzed on your couch, not doing anything, you're an optimist. If you get up and go to work and talk to people, answer the fucking phone, reach out to friends, say hi to people on the street or at work or whatever, that's optimism, because you're assuming, you have faith, you have a true and abiding belief that it's going to work out most of the time. I would even argue that some people who do themselves in, it's an act of optimism when they do it because they think it will end whatever pain they're in. Right? God, it was intentionally written out of the master plan. Yes, that's true. So, yeah. Tim Jeremiah was a bullfrog, just like Mark Levin. I like bullfrogs a lot more. And anyways, I think we're done with him anyways tonight, because I, went over and whatnot.